Welcome to Ping 24 Updates, where you get the most important news and stories from around the world every day. Subscribe my channel and click the bell icon to stay informed. Tonight, the world is watching the South China Sea, a region that has become the epicenter of a rapidly escalating crisis. As tensions reach a breaking point, the eyes of the globe are fixed on these contested waters, where every maneuver could have far-reaching consequences. In recent days, Chinese and Philippine vessels have clashed in these disputed waters, prompting the United States to send warships to the region in a show of force and solidarity. What began as a dispute over remote islands and valuable fishing grounds has now drawn in the world's biggest military power, transforming a local conflict into a global concern. The U.S. has declared an attack on the Philippines is an attack on the United States, invoking its long-standing commitment to its ally. The immediate trigger was a series of aggressive actions by Chinese ships, blocking, ramming, and using water cannons against Philippine supply boats attempting to reach their outposts. These incidents, caught on video and broadcast around the world, have sparked international alarm and accusations of bullying from Beijing. The U.S. responded by deploying a powerful naval strike group, signaling to Beijing and the world that its actions will not go unanswered, and that the stakes are higher than ever. Now, American and Chinese forces are patrolling the same contested waters, creating a tense standoff where even a minor incident could spiral out of control. Every move is under intense scrutiny, with military officials on high alert, and the risk of miscalculation is dangerously high. The U.S. presence is meant to deter further aggression and reassure the Philippines, but it also raises the stakes, making the situation more volatile. By standing with Manila, Washington is upholding a decades-old defense treaty and defending freedom of navigation, a principle vital to global trade and security. But this bold move puts American and Chinese forces in close proximity, increasing the risk of direct conflict and raising fears of a potential military confrontation. The world is holding its breath, hoping for restraint and diplomatic solutions as leaders weigh their next moves. This is more than a regional dispute, it's a global flashpoint with immense consequences for peace, stability, and the balance of power in Asia and beyond. The question now, will this show of force serve as a successful deterrent, or is it the first step toward a much larger and more dangerous conflict that could draw in nations far beyond these waters? The South China Sea is one of the world's most dangerous flashpoints, a region where tensions simmer just below the surface and the threat of conflict is never far away. Multiple countries claim the same islands and waters, but China's sweeping 9-dash line covers almost the entire sea, overlapping with the claims of the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan. These overlapping claims have created a tangled web of disputes that is difficult to unravel. In recent years, China has rapidly built artificial islands and established military bases on them, shifting the balance of power and alarming its neighbors. These outposts now bristle with radar systems, airstrips, and missile batteries, making the region even more volatile. The Philippines feels especially threatened, as many disputed areas fall within its exclusive economic zone under international law. Filipino fishermen and Coast Guard vessels often find themselves face-to-face with Chinese ships. Chinese ships now patrol these areas aggressively, chasing away Filipino vessels and creating constant tension. Skirmishes and standoffs have become almost routine, raising fears of accidental escalation. In 2016, an international tribunal ruled in favor of the Philippines, declaring China's 9-dash line had no legal basis. The decision was hailed as a victory for international law. However, China rejected the ruling outright and continues to enforce its sweeping claims, ignoring international warnings and diplomatic protests. This ongoing clash between China's historical claims and the principles of modern international law is at the heart of the conflict, fueling diplomatic standoffs and legal battles. The United States, committed to upholding international norms and freedom of navigation, is now deeply involved, conducting regular patrols and joint exercises with regional allies. The result, a volatile mix of rising superpower ambitions and smaller nations determined to defend their sovereignty, all packed into a crowded and contested sea. The South China Sea is no longer just a body of water, it's a grand chessboard for global power, where every move is watched and every misstep could have far-reaching consequences. Every new confrontation risks spiraling out of control, with the potential to draw in more countries and escalate into a wider conflict. The world is watching closely, aware that the future of international order and regional stability is being decided here, in these contested waters. The stakes could not be higher as the balance of peace and power in Asia and beyond hangs in the balance. In recent years, China's actions in the South China Sea have grown increasingly aggressive, raising alarm across the region and beyond. Philippine Coast Guard and supply boats are now routinely met with swarms of larger Chinese ships, dangerous maneuvers, and even water cannon attacks that threaten the safety of Filipino crews. These tactics are carefully designed to intimidate, harass, and ultimately force Philippine crews to turn back from their own waters. The encounters are terrifying for Filipino sailors, who are often outnumbered and outgunned, but remain determined to assert their country's rights and defend their territory. China relies on so-called gray zone tactics, hostile actions that stop just short of open warfare, using Coast Guard and maritime militia instead of the Navy to avoid direct military confrontation. The goal is clear: to change the facts on the water, gradually expanding control without triggering a full-scale military response from the Philippines or its allies. Each incident is a direct challenge to Philippine sovereignty, sparking outrage and protests at home, as well as heated debates on social media. The government now faces mounting pressure to respond decisively, and has increasingly turned to the United States for diplomatic and military support. These confrontations are not just about territory or resources, they're about national dignity, the survival of a nation's identity, and the right to self-determination. The risk is ever present. One misstep or escalation could turn these gray zone tactics into open conflict, with potentially devastating consequences for the region. In response, the Philippines is now seeking a stronger and more comprehensive security partnership with the U.S., including joint military exercises and new defense agreements. The stakes for Manila have never been higher, as the world watches how this dangerous standoff in the South China Sea will unfold. The U.S. has sent a carrier strike group to the South China Sea, a clear response to China's aggression. These warships are conducting freedom of navigation operations, challenging China's sweeping claims. The message: the U.S. will not allow any country to control international waters. This deployment raises the stakes, turning a regional dispute into a superpower standoff. For the Philippines, the U.S. presence is a vital boost, helping to deter further Chinese aggression. The U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty is now being put to the test, but the deployment is a double-edged sword. It increases the risk of a direct U.S.-China confrontation. The world's two most powerful militaries are now operating side by side in contested waters. A single miscalculation could spark a crisis with global consequences. The hope is for stability, but the fear is of escalation. The world is watching every move. At the heart of the crisis are clashing ambitions. For China, the South China Sea is about national destiny, security, and economic interests. Control means access to resources and strategic dominance. The nine-dash line is central to China's narrative of national rejuvenation. For the U.S., the priority is upholding international law and freedom of navigation. Over $3 trillion in trade passes through these waters each year. The U.S. fears that if China rewrites the rules here, it sets a precedent for the world. This is a contest between a rules-based order and the principle of might makes right. Both sides see the stakes as existential. The outcome will shape the future of global power. Behind the headlines, Filipino fishermen are paying the price. For generations, these waters have been their livelihood and identity. Now they face daily harassment from Chinese ships, chased away, nets cut, catches confiscated. Many have been forced to abandon traditional fishing grounds, plunging families into poverty. The blockade has devastated local economies and food security. Fishermen feel powerless, caught in a conflict far bigger than themselves. Their struggle has become a symbol of national resilience and the human cost of the dispute. Defending sovereignty means defending the right to make a living. The courage of these fishermen has inspired solidarity across the Philippines. Their plight puts a human face on the legal and diplomatic battles. The fight for the South China Sea is, at its core, a fight for ordinary people's futures. The crisis has revived the U.S.-Philippines alliance, rooted in a 1951 defense treaty. After years of uncertainty, Manila has pivoted back to Washington, seeking stronger military cooperation. Joint exercises and U.S. military aid are now at the forefront, modernizing the Philippine military. The alliance is no longer just symbolic, it's an active partnership. For the Philippines, it's a vital security guarantee against a larger neighbor. For the U.S., the partnership is key to its Indo-Pacific strategy. The Philippines' location makes it a critical ally for regional stability. Recent drills and aid have strengthened deterrence and confidence. Both nations now recognize how much they need each other. The South China Sea crisis has made the alliance more relevant than ever. Together they face an uncertain future. The South China Sea is balanced on a knife's edge. US and Chinese warships operate in close quarters, raising the risk of accidents or miscalculations. A single incident, an aggressive maneuver, a collision, could trigger a rapid escalation. Under the US-Philippines Treaty, a clash could draw in American forces. The nightmare, a local incident spirals into a superpower conflict. Escalation could spill into trade wars or cyber attacks, disrupting the global economy. The urgent priority is de-escalation, clear communication, restraint, and protocols to prevent accidents. Diplomacy must be given a chance. The alternative is a conflict no one wants, but everyone could stumble into. The world has seen how quickly miscalculations lead to catastrophe. All sides must step back from the brink. The stakes are global. The South China Sea showdown is a defining moment for the 21st century. The outcome will shape how nations resolve disputes, by law or by force. The Philippines, once a smaller player, now stands at the center, defending its rights and inspiring others. There is hope for peace, but it requires China to respect its neighbors, and all parties to commit to dialogue. A code of conduct and joint resource management could pave the way for resolution. The alternative is continued tension and risk. This is not the end but the start of a new chapter in global power dynamics. The world watches, hoping for peace. The future of the Indo-Pacific and the global order hangs in the balance. The South China Sea will remain a critical focus for years to come.